Hey, hello everyone in the community, and so glad that you are here with us. We have an encore today. Loyla has been with us. Oh my God, last year sometime,
Long
right?
time
I
ago.
can't even remember. With maybe it's like last year summer sometime. So we have been in here a while. That we even have people that appear with us once, sometimes twice. I mean, we're just happy to have anybody who have story and want to come back and share with us. So Loyla is one of the friends that I have kind of picked up during COVID or before COVID, I think even. I think we somehow stumble each other. I can't even remember what group or where, but we kind of like mastermind with each other a little bit, accountability partner. And then, it just like, I feel like I know her, not really know her, but I know her enough that I'm very comfortable with her. And she said she was from New Jersey. So, I mean, immediately we clicked because I was from Pennsylvania, which is kind of like a neighbor thing. But anyway, I am so glad that Loyla is back with us today.
I am looking forward to this conversation.
Yes.
Yes, welcome
absolutely.
back.
So, so I'm going to let Sarah introduce what our program is representing and who are we support. And if you can support us so we can support the program that we are support, which is hint, hint, Refugee Film School. We really, really appreciate it. So Sarah, give them the reason why we need people's support and why it is essential for us to support the cause that both of us are believing in so dearly.
Right, sure. Yes, first I just want to say hello and just say good to be back. It's always a pleasure to be back with you. And first I just want to remind you that our platform started right when the pandemic hit. That's when the pandemic hit. That's the reason why we start this platform, because we have been through very hard time ourselves. Lee and I, we suffer, but we feel better. We get to a better place, and we feel that this is a platform where we can share encouragement and inspiration to people, so so that they can feel calm and peaceful, not to be too anxious about anything. Because things can change. So once it change, it will change back to normal eventually. So also, because we have been a refugee ourselves, and we just feel a spot to think about other refugees, that they have now been to a better place like us. They got stuck. And especially we are talking about a group of refugees who got stuck in Malaysia. So there's a nonprofit organization. It's called Better Together for Good. And they started the new school to help the teenager in Malaysia. The refugee in Malaysia is called Refugee Film School. And we feel like this is a wonderful project. And Lee and I, we feel like the project that we love to support. So we just want to share with you so that you can join us to support this amazing organization that cares so much about those people that are less fortunate than us. So I will, when I turn to Lee, she will give you more detail about how you can support. But before I turn the microphone to Lee, just want to share a little bit about me. I'm Sarah M. I grew up in Cambodia. As you probably already remember, that Cambodia got hit by the communist Khmer Rouge. They came in and they basically destroyed our life. And I was captive by them and suffer, try to survive, and finally I was able to survive. And I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to survive, to move on, to escape and get out from the bad situation. So I'm here. So I'm so grateful for the people that had me to get started a new life. And with that, I wrote my book. It's my story. It's called How I Survived the Killing Fields. It's available on my website, sarahim.com. And I also go out in the community to share my story, to speak, to inspire, to motivate people. Reach out to me if you need my support. And back to you, Lee.
Thank you, Sarah. So I just want to add a little more. If you need more information about Refugee Film School, that's exactly where you need to go. www.refugeefilmschool.com. And right now we're trying to raise a quota, hopefully 20 computers, which is about $10,000, a refurbished computer to help our students so they can have something to work with. They need to have tools in order to do video editing and graphic design for hire. If you have a company, if you need some work, you can hire them and they can help you with a low budget. You can hire somebody, a virtual assistant from Malaysia, and still feel good about it. But anyway, so that's where our target is for this month. Without any information that you want to find out about me, just go to leatran.com, LEATRAN.com. And my story is another refugee of story and how we got here. And I am also a speaker, an author, and also a life coach. But today is not about me. Today is about blessing, how much blessing we got. This month, the theme is focusing on our gratitude. We're here because so much blessing has been giving us, for me, from my parents, from the people who supported my family when I first came to America, to all the friends and people who supported me in my life journey. And I'm sure, no one can walk alone. We all need support from family. And that's why we invited our guests to come and tell us their journey, what kind of blessing they got. And Loyla has been very blessed because last time we talked to her, she was still residing in New Jersey. And now she is happily moved to Ohio. And we just love to have Loyla update us, her journey, the new blessing that she gets, and what's she up to? It's been a while. So Loyla, tell us what's going on.
Well, I love your theme here about blessings and gratitude and the journey and how much we have. And just as you were talking, I was thinking, like, it's almost like a blink for me. I don't know if your audience knows. I grew up in a very affluent community in New Jersey. I had 2 cars in the garage. Our family had a second house in the country. We went on vacations and we wore brand new clothes all the time, a good education. And yet, because I had a very difficult childhood, I made a lot of bad mistakes, repeated a lot of my own history, and ended up, long story short, divorced as a young mom with a baby, living in a shelter for battered women. I
remember that story. I was still tore my heart. I remember, yeah. So remind us a little bit where you came from, and why is it so important to not to reminiscing the past, but just to use that as a gauge, to understand what we are having now is so much more blessing than where we came from. So yeah, go ahead, tell us.
Yeah, and so this is the thing, to your point, is not to go back and reminisce and feel sorry for myself or any of those things, but that's where I was so many years ago. And all of those things, as difficult as they were, they become, just like you ladies, just like you, Lee, and you, Sarah, they become your strength. Those difficult times become your superpower.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So not only do we have the blessings of everything that we have right now, but even our challenges and our difficulties ultimately are a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely. I think,
Yeah.
who can actually say that I never make mistake? Who can actually say that my life's been perfect? I've never been in the pitfall, and I never stumble across anything that's challenging. I dare, who can raise their hand and say that, right? But the beautiful thing is be able to recognize, where was the pitfall? Why was that pitfall? Is that our fault? Something that we couldn't understand? Something, so to get out of that, we got to recognize it first and to be aware. So what was the turning point for you when you realize that?
Yeah, the turning point for me was when I realized that all the mistakes that I promised myself I wasn't going to make as a mom, I was making them anyway.
Oh yeah.
And I had really promised myself I was going to be an amazing mom. I was going to fix everything that was wrong. And here I was making one bad decision after the next and kind of reacting in the moment, not knowing what was the right thing to do. And finally, with my oldest child, he was about 12 years old. I'll never forget the moment. Our relationship had been kind of becoming more and more toxic, more and more stressful. And one day he said something, I don't even know what it was that he said, but he was in the bathroom and, he's got that preteen angst. And he looks at me and he said whatever it was he said. And I went red. I was so angry. I went flying after him and I hit him and we both fell into the bathtub. And shower curtain came down, shower rod. We're both lying there like a mess, crying, both of us. And I said, how did this happen? The end. This is never going to happen again. And that moment, I decided I wanted to study families that, from my perspective, seemed like they were doing it right. And it didn't matter how much money they had, what education they had, how much, power, prestige. What I discovered in my journey as I started to read, educate, self-exploration, analyzing families, is that it didn't matter whether a family grew up in inner city, in the poorest conditions, or they grew up in Hollywood. Yeah. Because you can easily see that we have the same problems happening in all economic, cultural, we share a lot of the same problems regardless of our circumstances. And that's what I wanted to key in on. I wanted to understand what is it that really matters, that really makes the difference. And the conclusion I came to is family connection. Knowing who you are and feeling like you belong to something, right? And family is that first something. I mean, we belong to a community, we belong to a culture. Like there are these rings of belonging, but the core belonging, that core membership is the family. And when you can really feel like you are important and valued, and you know who you are within the family, you know the contribution you make to the family, which means that you're important and people are depending on you, then you just take that and you amplify it out into the world as you grow and mature. So once I realized that, I began to understand that all this knee-jerk parenting, making decisions in the moment that work in the moment, but they don't work in the grand scheme of things. This whole thing needed to be restructured. So that became, like, for me, my life's passion. And I've been now working with moms for 10 years, and I turned from working one-on-one with moms in my community back in New Jersey. During COVID, I went virtual, moved out of state, and created really I have a group, a Facebook group of currently about 4,000 moms, growing, and I'm creating community there and supporting those moms.
Wow.
That is just beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm sure Lee will agree. Your thinking, it's just like Asian community. That's what Asian community is all about. The the core of our relationship is in the family unit.
Yeah, I have a friend from Malaysia who is here in the country, and she, a dear friend of mine. And so I really got a bird's eye view into the Asian culture and just how important and honored and sacred the core family unit is. America has lost a lot of that.
Well, I want to say that there's always something beautiful in certain culture, and there's always something little flaw in those culture. So, I mean, you know, it is just very, very important. First of all, I want to say that thank you so much for taking what your experience as an individual, do a research on that and expand that to help other mom, because no moms come with a manual how to take care of the kids. Physically, it's easy, right? Just feed them, change diapers and whatever. But mentally, psychologically, we used to just repeating what our parents have already preconditioned us in that mold. And we don't know any better. I remember I sing the same lullaby to my son, what my mom sang to me, not even understand what that was. You know, it's like your childhood memory just rush back and you do exactly what your mom, your grandma did for you. Now, some of them are very, very beautiful, and some of them are very conflicting. So it is beautiful that you can able to step outside of that bathtub and then start thinking, how did we get here? You know, it's like many of us need to pause to take that moment and say, how did we get here? Is it something that instilled in us? Now we got to shake it up and start our own tradition, our own way of thinking. And it's really hard. It's not an easy transformation going from, you know, what you've been preconditioned to somebody that ideally you say, I would never do that as a mom. And obviously you're doing because the behavior, the habits, you know, the natural reflex, so to speak. So, so that is so wonderful that you are helping moms. So is there any particular ages group or people, you know, children that you're working with, or the mom's age group that you're working with?
Yeah, I really, especially during COVID, this was a very interesting transition for me. You know, they talked about everybody pivoting during COVID. I had been working with everything from young moms to grandma, because anything surrounding a child, I felt, okay, if you're struggling in any way, if there's a friction point, I can help you remove that friction. But during COVID, what happened was families came home, everybody got back together in the house, and things that were easy to avoid because everybody was so busy, all of a sudden wasn't so easy to avoid because we were stuck in the house together.
Yeah.
And it really brought everything to the surface. And what became very clear to me with my clients is that they were feeling that their child was so strong-willed, didn't like to be told what to do, didn't want to follow directions, wanted to take leadership in the house. Like, there are these classic signs of a strong-willed child.
Yeah.
And so I decided to just focus on moms raising children between the ages of 2 and 12 that are strong-willed.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's harder to break through that penetration of teenager, because sometimes teenager, they don't tell you what they're at the age that they're testing water all the time. Middle school, sometimes they still can be a cutie and they come and they talk to you and they affectionately want that, you know, physical touch. But teenagers, sometimes they just kind of clam down, they just clam in and they don't talk. So yeah, I think from 2 to about 12 is a great age to work, because it's hopefully they're still breakable.
Moldable. I like to say this.
Very moldable, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And we've learned a lot in science. We've learned a lot about neurology, the way the brain works now that our
Mhm.
parents and prior generations did not have access to. So I almost feel like all the tools are right there. And if
Yeah.
we can just put them together and create some order and structure, that we can really help children, especially if they're young. The younger, the easier it is to kind of rewire the brain in a very positive, healthy way. And you know, this is why I chose to work with this younger age group, is because there's still so much. It's so much easier when they're young.
Mhm. And it's not that easy now that with COVID, that they constrained in the environment at home with different age group of sibling, like 24/7. So lots of things. I'm sure there's a lot of cases of, you know, mentally depressions or things that children behave not in a normal way since COVID. Do you see a lot of that?
Yeah, you know, we're living in a day and age where children are being diagnosed for things that were never diagnosed before. In some ways, that's a
Scary.
good thing, and in some ways, that's a bad thing, because
Mhm.
diagnoses are going out that may or may not really be accurate. But that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But
Immediately you got a label, right? So you're gonna behave like the label that has been given to you. So yes.
yeah, and a lot of kids are on medications that maybe they don't really need that medication. Maybe they just need to be understood and spoken to and interacted with in a different way. And because that's not understood, it's just easier to put them on medication and just mellow everybody out.
Yeah.
So
We are the culture of Band-Aid. We just like slap it in and just like, you know, okay, what's next now? So
yeah. And that's not to discredit medication. That's not to discredit a real situation. I mean, let's face it, our food is not as good a quality as it should be. There's a lot of chemicals in all the foods we eat, in the air, in the water, in the soil. You know, what we're seeing through social media, all these messaging, and it plays with a child's brain, like neurologically it can. So there are a decent amount of times where medication actually can help retrain the brain to function properly. But there's plenty of times where just knowing to do this, when to do it, how to do it, to understand your child, and actually, and this is part of like my philosophy when it comes to parent coaching, is that you have to put on a scientific lens and study your child, not so much through that motherly, I want to, you know, give you and do for you and see you happy. And although that's beautiful, that's not always going to help you make the best decision in parenting.
Yeah.
So when you analyze the situation, you know what goals you're trying to hit, you study your child, you understand the way they process information, the way they communicate, what their love language is, you know, all of their diet, their environment, all of these things factor in. And it's like pieces of a puzzle. You get the information and you plug it together, and it creates a beautiful, crystal clear picture of how to raise your child.
I love it. First of all, I want to say that not to credit medicine, like you said, sometimes we need that little bit of recalibration, but that is not a long-term solution. And just like, and I love the scientific observation too, because not only our children, right? In any relationship, in any environment, we need to put in work in order to get out of it. And observation is the first thing to see where is going wrong and how, you know, kind of take you outside of the equation and look at in what does this child need right now? Or what does my husband need right now? Right. So that is beautiful. I think that can be applied to relationship, to business, to children, to
Yeah.
any gamuts of things. So I like that. And I would love to ask you, what is a good way for parents to bond with their children at this point when they are home so much? So not mothering them and not just do everything for them. Is that some good family activity that they can do together in order to form that bonds even better with fun? And, you know, this is the opportunity that we don't get very often. And we do now have the opportunity. And I think kids are going back to school. So if people didn't do it last year, they kind of missed it now too. But it's not too late, right?
It's true. There was a beautiful window of opportunity that happened during COVID. And you're right, it's not too late. It's never too late. But the thing that I have taught that I think every family should do, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is understanding, discovering together as a family, your family identity. So we talked about having a sense of core community within your family, right? And understanding each other and observing each other and listening to each other. But we can take it one step further to make this thing really exciting. And that is to create like a family identity. Years ago, they called it a family crest, right? Where, you know, like you look back into the Renaissance period and every family had an emblem, a crest that told you about that family. We lack the sense of pride in who we are as a family.
Yeah.
So I love this. I created a game, like a family game night with a script and action steps and things to do, but basically in a nutshell, it's an opportunity for the family to come together and identify within themselves. This is what gives me excitement, brings me passion. I love to do this. This is me. And then hear back from the family. What do you see in me, right?
Yeah.
Get some feedback and everybody share. And then you look for the common thread. What's the common thread that runs through everybody's passions and interests and dreams? You take that, whatever that common denominator is, and you start to now flesh it out by looking at, well, what are the characteristics? What is the behavior? What is the action of a person, the habits of a person with that common theme? And now we all recognize, we resonate with each other, that we have this common thing with common behaviors, common values and habits. And now when I want to correct my child because they're doing something, I'm only going to remind them of the thing they said they want to do, to think and talk and act in ways that are in alignment with the thing they said they want to do. And now we're no longer shaming each other, blaming each other, looking down on each other. We are supporting each other because we have a common passion, theme, value system, and we appreciate the uniqueness that each person brings to the table at the same time. So that's family identity. I think that's a beautiful way for the family to bond during COVID, now going forward,
And I love it. I love the part that playing game, because when you're playing game, you're pretending to be in a different environment. Your guard is down. You can say things to your parent, or your parent can say things to you. The question that they ask that they wouldn't dare asking during the serious time, right?
Yes.
But I think that's bonding, that's beautiful bonding, because I love playing games with my kids. My nephew, my niece, whenever they come to visit. And as a matter of fact, I hope my brother is not listening right now. They're going to come and visit. And I want to get some sort of games that my nephew and niece want to remember and want to come here because of the game. You know, it's like you got to go down to their level in order to talking to them, in order to get them to talk to you. So that is a beautiful advice. And I think cooking, what about cooking? That's a family activities that sometimes we just don't take the time to do, because who doesn't like to eat?
That's right. But I'm laughing to myself as you're talking about playing games, because as soon as we're done chatting here, I'm going to, my kids are coming from all over. My sister drove 7 hours from New Jersey to come visit. And the one thing she asked, can we do while I'm here? Can we have a family game night?
Ah,
Aw.
nice. Yeah. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, we game is perfect for family activities. And I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us while you're going to have a big crowd coming in later.
Glad to do it. This is such a great conversation. And I think whether you are raising a child who's still young yet, or you're on the other side of that mothering journey and your kids are grown and now you're just, hoping to connect with them as a peer to peer instead of parent to child, but whatever stage you're at in the journey of motherhood, this conversation is so valuable, and it will never stop being relevant and meaningful and important. And that's, I love that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think, I used to I used to dread playing Monopoly with my son because that's a game could last 3-4 hours, right? And I regret sometimes that I didn't really like capture those interests. I mean, we still do. We do poker games now. And he came home last year and he brought a totally different name, like Conquering the World, and you build up your, so it's a more adult game. But nevertheless, game is still game. When you are sitting down playing this where you bond. And I love that idea. I just, so into it. And I hope that our audience will trigger some of this new idea, maybe not new idea, maybe it's like, remember what it is when your kids come home this holiday.
Yeah.
This is a new chance to bond with them.
Yeah.
If they're young, find something that you can do as a family together. Heck with shopping. I mean, it's like, one is enough things, just do some game nights, and even the adult kids, spend time with them, sit and chit chat, and it's just such a great memory that you create, and you can always go back to those memories when kids are moving out and then you start crying.
Yeah.
But real quick, Loyla, tell us your journey, why you moved from Jersey to Ohio, and what is the reason and what's the blessing now that you're working with moms all over the world virtually?
That's right. Oh boy. Well, I have a very good reason. So many people have asked me, Loyla, why did you go from New Jersey to Ohio? Like, they're not all that different. But the thing is, it was the perfect storm. The stars aligned, like every door opened. My house had been flooded out in 2011 by a storm. We had to be taken out in a boat. And the value of our house plummeted. We were homeless for almost 5 months. And when we moved back into the house, I thought, we're never going to be able to sell this house again. Well, due to COVID, we were so close to the city, people left the city and they were looking for a place to live that wasn't so expensive as it is to live in the city. So the value of our house suddenly rose, and they fixed all the water problems that had caused the 2011 flood. So all of a sudden, the timing was right. If we were ever going to sell, that was the time. But more importantly, I have a child. One of my 4 kids is in Ohio, and they said, Mom, we're thinking about starting a family. And we would love for you to help us and be grandma. And I said,
that's all you need, right? That will be the button to push everything else.
Exactly. Yeah.
What a blessing. What a blessing. So you are, it's the grandkids here, or?
We're waiting. We're
Okay.
waiting. We had some unexpected health issues that had to be dealt with. And so hopefully now the coast is clear and the doctors have given permission for them to resume their
incubation.
Yes,
Wow,
exactly.
this is a perfect story. This is such a great blessing to hear that things have happened so much for a reason or multiple reasons, right? And I think it doesn't matter where you live, home is where your heart is, and your children is where your hearts are, your heart is.
Mhm.
So well, I don't want to keep you too long because I know that you're going to have a house full of people and games to play and food to cook and all this activity to do. But we are very, very grateful that you are here to share with us about your journey, your blessing, and how you help other moms to deal with all the crises that they're having right now.
Yeah.
Or
And
just to improve it, not even to deal with crisis.
that's right. We can always use more tools in our parenting toolbox, right? So the thing is, if anybody would like to ask me some questions or want to check out my website or talk to me personally, you can reach me at mothersandtraining.org. And I have lots of resources there. And I just created a course last year. I've got a workshop launch starting December 6th. It's called Winning the Whining War.
Oh, I love it. Winning the whining. And you know how our kids can whine. My son used to play this game. Mom, mother, mom. I don't know what it's not a whining because girls are really masterful in those. Boys are not so much. But I love the title, Winning the Whining.
Yeah. So
How do people get into your Facebook group, which is a really wonderful 4,000 member group? I'm sure there's tons of communication and community support and value information in there.
yeah, the name of the group is Parenting Tips for Strong-Willed Kids.
Oh,
Wow.
you really know how to pick names. I love it. It's
Yeah, so if
wonderful.
anybody would like to join, especially if you have if your audience is raising children or even grandma and you have grandchildren between the ages of 2 and 12, and you are looking for just more tips and support and encouragement, our community is lovely, just a lovely group of moms.
Or if you have
Wow.
nieces and nephews and, or sibling even.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you. Sarah, do you have any questions for Loyla? I think we'll...
I love your community. So if you don't mind, after we finish, you can post the Facebook group underneath our video so that our audience can, can go and belong to the group.
Yeah.
Yes, take advantage of that because I think it's nothing better than have a community, a supportive community that where you can actually post question. You are not alone. You're never alone out there. Moms, grandmas, please listen. There's always that we can do better for our kids and create more memories during this holiday time. It is such a blessing to have you here, Loyla. Thank you, Sarah, and I want to thank you for coming back to keep us up to date, and hopefully we'll have you back again next year.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Sarah. It was a pleasure chatting with you guys. Happy Thanksgiving and blessings this holiday season.
Thank you.
Same
Thank you.
to you.